We continue now at the top of Daf Zayin Amud Beis in Meseches Bava Kamma. This is Bava Kamma Daf 16b. The Gemara continues to analyze the brisa brought in the previous summer. Rabbi Elazar Omer Af HaNachash. Rabbi Elazar says even the snake is considered to be a muad. The Gemara asks, V'anon Tanan, but didn't we learn in our Mishnah? Rabbi Elazar Omer Bizman Shein B'nei Tarbus. Rabbi Elazar says in a situation where these animals are domesticated, Einon Muadim, they're not considered muad. V'haNachash muad liolam, but the Nachash, the snake, is always considered to be a muad. The problem is, Rabbi Elazar said in the brisa, even the snake, as if all the other animals are muad. In our Mishnah, it sounds like he's saying only the snake is muad. And so the Gemara answers, Tani Nachash, really you shouldn't say even the snake, it should be in the brisa, the snake is considered the muad. And the Gemara continues, Amar Shmuel, Shmuel says, Ari b'Rishus Harabim, let's say you have a lion in Rishus Harabim, Doras v'yachal pater, let's say he's Doras v'yachal, he treads upon the animal, and he kills and he eats it, so then that's pater, meaning to say, that's considered to be a normal thing for the lion to do. It's like Shane, and Shane is pater in Rishus Harabim. Tarav v'yachal, but if it tears up the animal to eat it, so chayiv, so in that situation, it's going to be chayiv. That's considered to be something that is not normal to do. It's going to be like Karen in Rishus Harabim, and it's going to be chayiv. Rashi explains, Doras means shalo harga ela mechayim achla. What Doras means is he pounced upon the animal. He didn't kill the animal. He ate the animal while it was alive. So pater, that's pater. Why the urchayu? It's normal to do that. V'shein Rishus Harabim pater. Shein in Rishus Harabim is pater. But taraf, meaning shaharga v'achla. Taraf means he tears it apart. He kills it first and then eats it. So chayiv, in that case, chayiv the lav urchayu. That's not normal. But told it to Karen, that's considered a told of Karen. U'mishalim chatzi nezek b'Rishus Harabim. Is going to end up paying chatzi nezek in Rishus Harabim, as you generally have a situation of strange kinds of damage. So again, doras v'yachal, if you have a situation where he didn't kill it, he just ate it alive, so that's pater, that's considered normal, and therefore it's shein b'Rishus Harabim, it's pater. But taraf v'yachal is abnormal, and that's why it's chayiv. Doras v'yachal pater kaven de'urchei lemidris. Again, doras v'yachal is pater because since it's normal to pounce upon the animal, havalei kemosha achla perus v'yarakos, that's like eating fruits and vegetables in Rishus Harabim. The havalei shein b'Rishus Harabim pater, that's considered shein in Rishus Harabim, and it's pater. But taraf, but if he tears it apart, lav orchihu, that's not normal, and therefore since it's not normal, that's why it's going to be chayiv in Rishus Harabim. But the Gemara asks on this, Lameimer, does that really mean to say that treifa lav orchihu, that tearing apart the animal is not normal? It's not true. Vaksib, but it says in the pasuk, Aryeh toref b'dei gorosav. It says that a lion tears up for its cubs. And so therefore you see it's normal for the animal to tear up, for the lion to tear up the animals. And the Gemara answers, b'shvil gorosav. The Gemara answers, no, that's only because it's for the cubs, but if it's for itself, that's actually not normal. But the Gemara continues that the pasuk goes on to say, "Umechanik lelava osav." So again, that's the same basic idea. It means to say, does it for the lioness? The Gemara says the same answer, b'shvil leva osav. For the lioness, it will do that. It'll tear it up, but it's not going to do that for itself. But the Gemara continues, "Vayamale teref chorav." It says he takes that which he tears and he brings it to the holes to store away for himself. And again, the Gemara answers, "Bishvil chorav." That just means to say again, to do it, to store it away, to put it in the holes that it has in the ground. That's a normal thing to do. But just to do it, to eat it right away, it wouldn't do. Uma onosav, and then it says in the pasuk uma onosav treifa. Again, it takes the treifa to its lair. Again, the same answer. B'shvil ma'onosav. If it's doing it in order to put it away, to store it away, so that's going to be normal. But the Gemara continues, Vatanya, but we learned in a brisa, v'chein chayosh nichnaso l'chatzer hanizik. If a wild animal enters into the chatzer hanizik, which would seem to include a lion, tarfa behema va'achla. If it tears up the animal and it eats it, va'achla basar, and eats the meat, mishalim nezek shalim. It pays nezek shalim. And so you see over here as well, Rashi over here says, Tarfa behema v'hargasa v'achla habasar, kills the animal and eats it, mishalim nezek shalim, pays nezek shalim, mid mishalemis b'chatzer hanizik nezek shalim, from the fact that it's paying in the chatzer hanizik nezek shalim, mechlal de'orchayu, that sounds like we're saying it's a normal thing to do, it's like Shane, betolda de Shane, it sounds like a tolda of Shane, over Rishus Harabim pater, and then in Rishus Harabim, it should be pater in that situation. Again, it sounds like in the Rishus hanizik, in the chatzer hanizik, it's Shane b'chatzer hanizik, it pays nezek shalim, but otherwise, it sounds like it should be pater. So you see that if tearing it up is not considered. You see that tearing it up rather is considered to be a normal thing to do. And the Gemara says, Hachab Mayaskina, no, we can explain the brisa as follows. It's dealing with the case, Shatar Falaniach, that it did tear up the animal, but it did it to store it away. The The Gemara said, you can't say that's the pshat in the Braisa. Ha'achla katani, it says in the Braisa, it ate it. It says tarfa behema v'yachla. It doesn't say storing it away. The Gemara says, well, bishanimlacha, the lion, the wild animal, changed its mind. Originally, it actually was going to do it to store it away, so that's normal, and then it went ahead and ate it. Gemara says, but how could that be? Bishanimlacha v'yachla, minoya dinan. It changed its mind and it's ate it. How are we going to know? Minoya dinan, from where do we know that that's what happened? You're never going to know whether the animal changed its mind or not. And the Gemara says further, V'yod and further, to Shmuel Nami, Shmuel's original halacha, his whole teaching was that it's something that's not normal. What do you mean? Dil mahachiyu, maybe it was. Maybe he was originally going to store it away. It is something normal. And so the Gemara says, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak says, Litzdadin katani, that it's a two-sided teaching as follows. Shetarfa lahaniach, what it means is, if it tore up in order to store away, darsav yachla, or you have a situation where it pounced upon it and it ate it, mishalemes nezek shalim. So then it pays nezek shalim. In other words, that's exactly what we're really saying. Tarfa lohaniach, again, is considered to be normal. And the Gemara continues, Ravina Amar Ravina says, Kiko Amar Shmuel ba'ari tarbus v'aliba de Rebbe Lazar da Amar lav urche. She says that when did Shmuel say that it's considered to be something that's not normal? That's going to be talking about a lion that is a domesticated animal, and that follows the opinion of Rebbe Lazar that you can have this domesticated kind of, that a lion can be a domesticated animal, and so therefore already that's going to be not normal by a domesticated animal. That's what Shmuel meant. But the Gemara says, if so, afilu darsa nami l'chayev. If that's the case, darsa also should be considered by a domesticated lion. That should also be considered not normal, and it should be chayev in Rishas Harabim as well. And so rather the Gemara says, Ela de Ravina lava Shmuel itmar. You're right. What Ravina said, that we're talking about a domesticated animal, he wasn't explaining Shmuel. Ela amasnisa. Rather, he's going on that brisa, talks about the chaya, the wild animal, shenichnasa l'chatzer hanizik, kitani masnisa. You know what the brisa is talking about? Ba'aritarbus v'aliba de Rebbe Lazar. It's talking about a domesticated animal according to Rebbe Lazar, the Amar lav urche, who says that that's already not a normal kind of behavior. In other words, when it says in the brisa, v'chein chaya, shenichnasa l'chatzer hanizik, tarfa behema, we're talking over there about a domesticated animal that's acting in a not normal fashion. But the Gemara says, Yachi, if so, Chatzi Nezek boy l'shlume. So then why is it talking about paying Nezek Shalim? It said in this Brisa, Chaya shenichnas l'chatzer hanizik, tarfa behema v'yachla basar, meshalim Nezek Shalim. It's not Nezek Shalim, it's Chatzi Nezek. You're explaining this Brisa, talking about not normal behavior, and talking about a tam, it should be Chatzi Nezek. And the Gemara says, the case over here is that it already did it a few times, multiple times, it's already a muad. But the Gemara says, if so, my haid katani law, Gabe told the Shane. This Bryce is actually taught in the context of toldas of Shane. It's not talking about Karen. It's Gabe told it to Karen, boy lemisni. It should have been by toldas of Karen. And the Gemara says to that kasha, the Gemara says, indeed, that is difficult. And Rashi explains, Hachi Garcinan, this is the proper text, Amr of Nachman says, Litzdadin Katani, this Bryce, again, the Bryce said, a chaya that's nichnasa, l'chatzer hanizik, torfa behema v'yachla basar, meshalim nezek shalim, it says you pay nezek shalim. The implication is that is going to be normal behavior in the chatzer hanizik, and it pays nezek shalim like Shane. So Rav Nachman says, it's Litzdadin Katani, it's like two separate cases. Tarfa v'hinicha, the case of tarfa is, it tears apart the animal, and then it places it aside, it hides it aside. Darsav yachla, pounces upon it and eats it immediately. Mishalemes nezek shalim, pays nezek shalim. Kalamar hada katani brisa tarfa behema v'yachla basar. When it says tarfa behema v'achla basar, trei milin inu. It's actually two separate cases. Tarfa behema v'hinicha. If it tears apart the animal and then sets it aside, hides it, achla basar al yedei drisa, pounces upon it and eats it. Mishalim nezek shalim, then it pays nezek shalim. Ravina says liolam orchehu litro v'lechol. Really, it is normal for the animal to tear apart and eat. Ushmuel de mechayev le versus Rabim. If it's normal, why did Shmuel say Chayv and Rishas Harabim? Ba'ari Tarbus, that was talking about a domesticated lion where it's not normal. Ve'aliva de Rebbe Lazar, that follows Rebbe Lazar, who says there's a concept of having a domesticated lion. If so, afilu daras nami l'chayev ela. But if so, then even if it was daras, it already should be not normal, it should be Chayev. V'adei de Ravina loa de Shmuel itmar. So certainly Ravina was not going on Shmuel. Rather, it has to be that if you're going to explain what Ravina was saying, he must have been explaining the Brisa. Ravina, and Ravina was saying as follows: Had katani masnisa nezek sholem. When it says in the Mishnah you pay nezek sholem, la misham de orche litrof. It's not that it's a normal thing to do. De'afila bari tarbus nami misukma. We're talking even about a lion who is a domesticated lion, and it's not normal. But then the Gemara asked if that is the case, so then it should be chatzi nezek. And the Gemara said, well, then maybe the case is that it's a muad. Uparchinan masnisa nami hechigisel de Ravina chatzi nezek boy l'shlum. It should have been chatzi nezek, not nezek sholem. The Gemara said it became a muad, but then the Gemara said even then it's difficult because this brisa is talking about Shane, it's not talking about Karen. Ihachid told it to Karen, he had to Tani Laham Masnisa, Gabe told it to Shane. This brisa we're going to see later on is talking in the context of Shane. Gabe told it to Karen, listening, it should have been by the toldos of Karen. And the Gemara continues with the Mishnah, this we quoted a little earlier, Ma bein tam lemuad, what's the difference between a tam and a muad? Ela shatam mishalim chatzi nezek migufo, a tam pays half migufo from the body of the animal that did the damage, you're never going to pay more than that. Umuad mishalim nezek shalim minhu aliyah, but by a muad you're going to pay full, and you're going to pay minhu aliyah, meaning, Rashi says, minhu aliyah, va'afilu ein hanogeach shav shir hanezek, even if the animal that did the goring is not worth the amount of the damage, to v'muad ksiv yishalim shor tachas ashor, v'lo ksiv beit miguf hanogeh. Because when it talks about mur, it says you have to pay for the damage. You have to pay, give a shore if you damage the entire shore. It doesn't say you have to pay from the value of the animal that did the goring. And the Gemara says, "My aliyah." What does it mean? You pay minhu aliyah. Amar Rabbi Elazar says, "B'mu'ula shebenachasav." It means he has to pay from the very best of his property. V'cheinu omer, and likewise it says in the pasuk, "Vayishkav Chizkiyahu ma'avosa v'yikbaru b'ma'ale kivrei b'nei David." It says that Chizkiyahu was buried b'ma'ale kivrei b'nei David. What does that mean? V'yamar Rabbi Elazar b'ma'ale etzel mu'ulam shebemishpacha. It means he was buried by the very best in the family. Uman ninu, who is that? David u'Shlomo. That refers to David and Shlomo. And the Gemara continues, the pasuk says, by the burial of Asa, the king of Yehuda, vayikbaru b'kivros v'asher kara lo b'yer David. It says they buried him in the burial plots in the city of David. V'yashkivu b'mishka v'asher mile b'samim uznim. And it says they laid him over there, and there were perfumes, b'samim, and there was nim, there were spices. My b'samim was nim. What does that mean, b'samim and znim? Rabbi Elazar Amar zine zine. Rabbi Elazar says what znim means is all different kinds of b'samim. Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani Amar, Rabbi Shmuel bar Nachmani says, b'samim shakol hameiriach bohen bali de zima. What it means is it was the kind of b'samim that would bring a person to zima, it would bring a person to znus. That's what it means, b'samim uzinim. And the Gemara continues at the two dots, ki karu shucho l'lachdeni upachem tamnu l'raglai. The full context of the pasuk, there's a pasuk in Yirmiyahu. The pasuk says, Tishama za'akam ibatem ki savi alem gedud pisom. There's going to be enemies upon them. Ki charu shucho l'lachdeni upachem tamnu l'raglai. It means to say that this is like a trap that was set for me, and it was something that was going to cause me to stumble, says Yirmiyahu. Rabbi Elazar Amar, Rabbi Elazar says, shechashdu mizona. Rabbi Elazar says that they accused him of being with a zona. Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani, Rav Shmuel bar Nachmani says, shechashdu me'eshes ish, that they accused him of being with a married woman. And the Gemara says, I understand if you're going to say Kikaru Shucha, that refers to a zona. Hainu dechsiv ki shucha amuka zona. There's a pasuk that says a similar idea. It says a shucha and it refers to a zona. But the one who says that they accused him of being with a married woman, so my shucha, what's this language of shucha? What does that have to do with eshes ish? The Gemara says, Atu eshes ish minafka michlal zona. Do you think an eshes ish is not also considered to be a zona? She's also in the category of zona, and therefore it refers to her as well. And the Gemara continues, now I understand if you're saying that Yirmiyahu is saying that they accused him of being with an eshes ish. That's why he says, you Hashem, you know that they were trying to kill me, because that's something that carries the death penalty. But according to the one who says that they suspected him of being with a zona who's an unmarried woman, so my lamavis, what does it mean to say that it was something they were going to do to kill him? That's not something that carries the death penalty. And the Gemara says, it's a reference to the fact that they threw him into a pit that was full of mud. And the Gemara continues, Darash Rava Darshans Maidichsiv. What does it mean when it's written in the pasuk? This is also a pasuk from Yirmiyahu. He says about his enemies, you muchshalim lefanecha beis apcha, let them stumble before you at the time that you're angry. Also behem, you should deal with them when you're angry. Amar Yirmiyahu lefnei HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yirmiyahu is saying in front of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Ribona Shalom, Master of the world, afilu b'shasha osin tzedakah. Even at times that they're giving tzedakah, and normally tzedakah would protect them, hachshilam b'vnei adam she'enon mehuganim. You should make them stumble that they'll give the tzedakah to people who are not really worthy of it. Kadei shelo yikavlu alei and sachar. That way they'll get no reward for the tzedakah they're giving. And the Gemara continues at the two dots. The pasuk says by Chizkiyahu v'chavod asalo b'moso, they gave him honor in his death. And the Gemara says Malamin shehoshivu yeshiva al kivra. What this teaches is that they established a yeshiva by the area where he was buried. Pligi bar Rabbi Nosson v'Rabbanan. There's a machlokas on this between Rabbi Nosson and the Rabbanan. Chadam ar shlosha. One says there was a yeshiva there for 3 days in his honor, and we will continue with this discussion in the next video on Daf Yud Zayin Amud Aleph.